Welcome back to Fantasy Football Overdrive with the NFLExporter for FinManiacs.com. You are listening to an exclusive edition today. We have our special guest, Marcella Surra, who's been chopping it up big time, bringing a lot of great advice and analysts to the table as we have been covering fantasy football and our surprises, guys who were picked up in later rounds, or maybe just some players that you may have not expected to do as well as they are in the first 3 weeks of the season. We're going to go ahead and cover our last set of studs. If you have missed the show so far, we've covered Martellus Bennett, tight end for the Chicago Bears. We've covered Jeremy Maclin, wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. We have touched on Emmanuel Sanders, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and Rashard Jennings, running back for the New York Giants. Marcella, go ahead and give us your last name for this week, who has been a surprise for you and is balling like a stud out there in fantasy football.
You know, I'm going to say Kirk Cousins. If he's out on the wire in your league, pick him up. Even if you don't even need a quarterback, pick him up so no one else has the advantage of playing him. And he's someone, now every year, you know, these rookie quarterbacks, they get all this hype, and a lot of times that's exactly what it is. It's just hype. In fact, over the years, I make it a point not to draft rookie quarterbacks because the game is so psychological, and a lot of these guys, even though, you know, they're very physical and, you know, they have all these college stats that were just amazing, the game is so psychological. You really sort of need someone that's mature enough to, you know, run a game and make those, you know, just split-second decisions the right way. And, you know, there's really only been a few rookies, I think, in the NFL that have been able to do that, and that's, you know, Russell Wilson, Andrew Luck. I mean, there's, you know, first of all, Andrew Luck was hype, and he's sort of, you know, this season we can see he's living up to that hype. And Russell Wilson wasn't really hyped at all, but he's somebody that, you know, he's already won a Super Bowl. So, you know, he definitely deserves all of the accolades he's getting. But, you know, I'd like to talk about Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, week 2, you know, his QB rating was 109. And week 3, his QB rating was 103. And week 2, he had 2 touchdowns. Week 3, he had 3 touchdowns. You know, 427 yards last week. One of the reasons I think that Kirk Cousins is going to continue to play well is, you know, he's got Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon. Those guys are studs. I mean, Deshaun Jackson can be a number 1 wideout in his own right, and Pierre Garçon, I remember he was on the Colts, and, you know, he was amazing on the Colts when he was there, and, you know, he's really matured over the years. You know, he was a stud on the Colts, and he's been a stud on the Redskins for a long time. So Kirk Cousins is actually set up to succeed. And what I like about Washington's offense right now, and I think they really gave the Eagles a run for the money the other day, what I like about Washington's offense is they can run the ball. And what happens is when you have these teams that run the ball well, that opens up the passing game. And so, to me, their offense is, you know, it's very balanced. And, you know, as young as Kirk Cousins is, I think that he's someone that's going to succeed. Kirk Cousins is going to throw the ball in the direction of Pierre Garçon or Deshaun Jackson, and these guys are going to make plays. And these guys have the athleticism and the talent to make things happen. Snatch him up if you can, especially if you're somebody, goodness, that has, you know, Tom Brady. You know, drafted Tom Brady in the 5th round or something. You know, snatch up Kirk Cousins and play him as much as you can.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. He should not be on the waiver wire right now. If nobody picked him up, I know that first and foremost, people who had Robert Griffith III, I don't know too many people who had Griffith III as a starter. Now, some people did. They went with the strategy, loaded up top, and grabbed RG3 with the hopes that he could maximize the potential of those weapons that Marcella just mentioned. Deshaun Jackson, Pierre Garcon. They brought over Andre Roberts from Arizona to work the slot. Had a good young tight end in Jordan Reed. Had a new offensive coordinator / head coach in Jay Gruden, who had a ton of success out in Cincinnati. You had a running game with Alfred Morris, so there was certainly no reason why RG3 shouldn't have been able to excel. Who knows if he would have? I mean, he got hurt so early. Nonetheless, Cousins certainly is maximizing the weapons. I'm not even mentioning he's utilizing Roy Halou a little bit in the passing game. He's got a fullback in Young who can catch out the backfield. Even with Jordan Reed down now, as Paul has continued to really put up the numbers at tight end. So when you look at all the weapons that they have in Washington, Cousins was certainly a guy who, again, if nobody picked him up to replace RG3 as a starter or a backup after his performance at home against Jacksonville, best believe after what he did last week at Philadelphia, he is not on any waiver wires right now. Nonetheless, if he is, grab him. Marcella, you certainly brought up a good point there. I emphasize this first and foremost in the preseason when I was doing my rankings and talking about drafting these players. One of my strategies that I like to go with, and you know what, you have to listen to Marcella. I'm listening myself. This is a woman who really knows what she's doing. Did you hear what she said about strategy? Sometimes you even pick up a player if you don't need him to make sure that other owners cannot pick him up and he comes back to hurt you. Very good piece of advice there. Back to what I was saying, though, when you look at when I was doing my preseason rankings, a big thing I factor in is the division. In this NFC East division, you have seen it so far. Look at Washington's defense. Look at the Giants' defense. Look at the Redskins' defense. Look at the Eagles' defense. They play no defense in that division. So therefore, Kirk Cousins, if nothing else, he has 5 games left against the NFC East. He is going to put up big numbers with those weapons. Now, I think from a overall standpoint, if he's going to remain the starter and so on and so forth, I think we're going to get a chance to see what type of pure quarterback he is. Because as Marcella mentioned, after this week's game in which he played against the Giants, he's got 2 back-to-back games playing Seattle and at Arizona. So we'll really get a chance to see what he looks like as a quarterback from a fantasy football perspective. This is a guy you want on your team because he's playing with confidence. The difference I was seeing with him and RG3 is that Cousins trusts his protection or is not afraid to stand in and take a hit. He's being extremely accurate with the football. That a lot of these patterns and routes is timing. He's getting rid of the ball on time. He's throwing to windows. If you've seen the touchdown that he threw to Deshaun Jackson last week, he threw the ball ahead of time before Jackson was past his defender, and he threw it to the area Deshaun Jackson was going to, not where he was at. And so when you look at things like that, I certainly think that Kirk Cousins is a guy who's going to be very successful outside of that game playing Arizona and Seattle the next couple weeks. Like you said, a very soft or friendly schedule. I think he's definitely a guy who has the pieces in place to be very successful.